Excuse me.
What's wrong?
Unity's not here. Now and forever.
Cynthia, what? Cynthia!
Come to us, Cynthia. We love you.
Hey gang, I gotta check your mic. Todd here, and this week we're looking at a homage, knockoff, reworking of Nightmare on Elm Street called Bad Dreams. Although, except for a killer that seems to appear and disappear a lot, not really that much is all Freddy Krueger-ish. Although he was burned. But for the most part, this is an intriguing supernatural thriller with a twist ending. It starts off in the mid-70s. And the great Richard Lynch, in probably one of his most charismatic portrayals, is a cult leader named Harris, who is planning for his family to cross over.
Come to eternal bliss.
Everybody's going up in flames. Fire department arrives and they discover one person is still alive, though she is unconscious, suffering head trauma and some burns. And her name is Cynthia. And she's taken to the hospital where she is in a coma until the late 80s, about 13 years.
Come to me, Cynthia. Now. 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 You know I'll find you.
She makes national headlines, having been in a coma for so long. But she has no memories of how she got there. Basic memories of when she was with the family. And her physician, Dr. Beresford, has her attend Dr. Carmen's group therapy to kind of help her reconnect, reestablish, work back into the modern civilization, since she's 13 years out of date and she needs a lot of physical therapy and her muscles have all atrophied. And during one of the sessions, she has a flashback to the incident.
Our love will never die.
pretty intense. I cut out a middle section there where you see all the people set on fire and start burning up. A little too graphic, I think. Interesting side note. Richard Lynch, earlier in his life, had actually been burned and scarred in a fire. And later on in the film, when you see him in his burn makeup, he had a lot of trouble with that because it was a painful reminder of what happened. But trooper that he was, show must go on. And that actress playing Cynthia is Jennifer Rubin, probably best known as the punk rock rebel in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, where she played an ex-addict and had a pretty cool fight with Freddy where she had switchblades. She's also been in another sci-fi horror film called Screamers, as well as the psychological thriller The Crush, and had a part in the biopic of Jim Morrison, The Doors. Well, after she's disrupted the group therapy session there, and this happened after she had a vision of Harris in an elevator where she freaked out. Forgot to mention that. Yeah, I'm old. Memory. She tells this, Dr. Beresford, what she remembers, and to Dr. Carmen, and let's see, and Detective Wasserman, who was on the original case.
Lieutenant, you must be pleased to close the case after 13 years.
Who said it was closed? What do you mean by that? The Sleeping Beauty here woke up. She didn't remember anything about the 30 deaths. So now she remembers. It was a goddamn Jonestown. A suicide pact. Who knows what she remembers?
Wasserman, being a police officer, is naturally suspicious. The two doctors in there, Beresford and Carmen. Beresford is played by Harris Yulin, a very prolific character actor. Usually played bad guys. So it's nice to see him here in a sympathetic role. I mean, he's been in Scarface and Stuart Saves His Family, Ghostbusters 2, and many TV appearances. Wonder Woman, Cagney and Lacey, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Very, very good prolific actor. And of course, Dr. Carmen is a familiar face. If you are a fan of Jeffrey Combs' Reanimator films, you will recognize him as Herbert West's put-upon assistant partner, whatever, in Reanimator and Bride of Reanimator. And if you're a fan of 90s syndicated action shows, you will probably remember him in the second and third season of Dark Justice, where he took over the main character from Remy Zada, in which he played a judge who sits on the bench during the day and then takes off his glasses, lets his long hair down, jumps on a motorcycle, and seeks to right wrongs, as it were. Dark Justice. Okay show. Anyway, getting back to things, one of the people from the group therapy, Lana, tries to give some comfort to Cynthia.
Okay. If you need a friend, a new friend,
Please. Will you just leave me alone? Please. Leave me alone.
After getting chastised by another patient for being mean, once alone, Cynthia has another flashback to when she was baptized into the family.
The mind?
soul of the self. Spirit of the body. I warned you, Cynthia. I warned you someone else would take your place.
Yes, you sharp-eyed viewers, that was E.G. Daly. I spelled it wrong. E.G. Daly. At that time billed as Elizabeth Daly, a very, very prolific actress. If you were a teenager in the 80s, you would have seen her pop up on cable in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Streets of Fire, Valley Girl, and of course One Dark Night, which is where I remember first seeing her. But if you're a fan of 90s animated Cartoon Network shows, she was the voice of Buttercup in the Powerpuff Girls and of Tommy Nichols in Rugrats, among many, many others. And if you're a Rob Zombie fan, you would have seen her in The Devil's Rejects and has Sex Head in 31. Yeah, Sex Head. Of course, you Rob Zombie fans would probably be upset if I made fun of that, so I'm not going to. Anyway, back to the plot. Cynthia immediately runs out of the locker room only to find that Lana has drowned herself in the pool. She collapses in hysterics. Later, she is approached by another patient from her therapy session, known as, called Miriam. She is a journalist who makes a deal with Cynthia. She'll help her get out in exchange for her story so that she can get back on the paper that she worked on. Cynthia agrees. She's beginning to think she's a danger to everyone around her. And even though she has no family and no one to go to, she thinks it's better if she was not in this hospital. And then, as they're making their way towards their big escape, it happens again. What is it with him popping up in elevators looking all burned? Interesting motif. And yes, that was Susan Rutan of Law and Order fame. Law and Order. L.A. Law fame. L.A. Law fame. Oh my God. One of those evenings. Cynthia, unable to get the elevator because it's already closed, rushes down floors to try and catch it. And of course, she's too late. After the police investigate this, she is with the rest of the therapy group, which is now down to 4, and tells them that she believes that if she doesn't kill herself, Harris will kill them. A little disturbing, but not much. Carmen, of course, tries to explain that this is all delusion on her part, and that both Lana and Miriam were there because they had both attempted suicide. Later that night, while two of the group members, Ed and Connie, sneak away to have their strange sexual tryst in which they have sex, and then Connie will berate Ed for having sex with her because it's such a filthy thing. But she desires him at night, and then the next morning she feels ashamed. It's one of their odd hang-ups.
You're not responsible for what happened to Lana and Miriam. And until you believe it, there's nothing I can do for you. I'm lost. I'm confused and concerned, and not just as a doctor. What am I supposed to do?
Well, Cynthia tries to follow them, but Dr. Carmen won't let her get away. Meanwhile, Ed and Connie, they slip off to the power room, and they imbibe from a flask that he has, and they open the gate into the main turbine fan and stand there just feeling it blow on them. A little later, the air conditioner cuts off. Maintenance man goes to check, can't get in the power room because it's bolted from the inside. So he goes down the emergency hatch, which seems to be jammed. So he pulls as hard as he can, and it pops open, and two mangled bodies fall out, Ed and Connie. And this starts the fan going again. Turbine starts to spin, which then sprays blood out of all the air conditioning vents. Freaks the whole place out, naturally. Well, the official ruling is that they got drunk and accidentally fell into the turbine. Sure. Cynthia, of course, thinks Harris did it. And Wasserman, he's a little peeved at how all these accidents keep happening. So, he puts a guard on Ralph and one on Cynthia. Ralph eludes his guard. He has a tendency for self-harm. One of his beliefs is when the pressure builds up too much within him, he can poke a hole in himself and the pressure will go out. And he's been feeling a lot of pressure, so he jabs a knife into his hand. And he feels better. Then he knocks out his own guard and goes to talk to Cynthia. And he wants to take her somewhere, but she doesn't want to leave. But when he turns to leave, she notices his hand is bleeding, and she goes with him. Well, when they find Ralph's guard is knocked out, and Cynthia has somehow eluded hers, they have a massive search. Ralph takes her down to the records room. It's where he likes to go. And he starts to flip out, hurting himself, tearing things apart. And well, once Dr. Carmen remembers Ralph likes to go there, we can figure out the inevitable ending for this.
Hurt you?
No! You're right. This is madness.
Yeah, killed himself right there in front of everybody. Whew. Well, after Cynthia has been sedated for this ordeal, there's now only one member left. And Wasserman decides he's going to place Cynthia in custody. She is somehow responsible for this. Beresford's, perplexed.
Do you imagine that she drowned Lana without getting wet? You saw Ralph kill himself.
She was there every single time. She's some kind of goddamn catalyst. I don't know. But I'm going to find out one way or another. Police custody is long overdue.
Police custody.
But in order to placate Wasserman, he decides Cynthia will go into isolation. He doesn't have to take her to jail. You can put her in isolation. She will have no contact with anyone but a nurse in the isolation ward. Wasserman agrees. Carmen doesn't. He thinks this is the worst thing for her. And he tries to convince Wasserman to go ahead and arrest her, and he'll stay as her psychiatrist. Beresford does not take to that and fires Carmen right then and there. After Cynthia's moved to isolation and Carmen is cleaning out his office, he decides he's going to take some action against Beresford.
Touchdown!
Yeah, it was all a dream. Anywho, Cynthia's having conversations with Harris in her room, which perplexed the nurse who's watching on the camera station because there's no one in there. And when she goes to check on her, the last patient, Gilda, sneaks in and tells Cynthia she has to live. In order to beat the great evil, she has to live. Later, someone visits Gilda in her room.
I knew you'd come, but you're too late. I warned her. I told her what she had to do. You won't get to her. You won't get me.
And kills herself. Another one. Well, after his nightmare, Dr. Carmen runs to the dispensary, where he gets some help looking at records from Roger Rabbit.
Oh, Pesco is dead. Just help me read it. What is it? All right, just calm down. Lithium 4 times a day. Is this lithium? No, this is beryllium. Oh. This is the exact opposite of lithium. You give this to a normal person, you flip out. Somebody like Pesco, you can forget about it.
Yes, that was Charles Fleischer, the voice of Roger Rabbit. Oh, very prolific character actor. He had recurring roles on Laverne and Shirley, Welcome Back, Kotter, and I really liked his appearance in the movie Zodiac, where he might have been the killer. He might not. Very good scene. Anyway, checking with the rest of the medications for the patients in the group, he finds Beresford, who handles all the medication himself. Nurses in the dispensary do not make his medications. He does them himself. That he's given the exact opposite medication of what these people need, which is exacerbating their suicidal tendencies, not alleviating them. And he's doing this to prove some kind of theory he's got. They don't actually say what the theory is, but he's got some theory about suicide, and so he's using this illegally to prove his theory. Because, if you can prove a theory, or even look like it might be proved, you can write a paper, write a book, you can go on speaking tours. It doesn't matter if it works or not. As long as you've got that first one out there, even if it gets debunked, you can still make money off that. So he goes to Cynthia, and Beresford knocks him out. And convincing Cynthia that he is Harris, takes her to the roof. Carmen comes to, and realizing they must be on the roof, goes there to stop him.
Cynthia. Hold on.
Choose, Cynthia. Decide. Act!
It's so beautiful.
There's a bit of a fantasy segue there where she imagines going back to the house, going up the stairs, and reaching out to Harris. Clasping his hand with that turns out to be Carmen. And he's holding her. Well, Beresford does not take kindly to having his experiment messed with.
No! Oh! Oh!
Well, luckily, Wasseford shows up. So, Beresford tries to put all the blame on Carmen, as Carmen's pulling Cynthia up. But the fact that Carmen has those wounds on his hand where Beresford was stabbing him with that hypodermic kind of clashes with his actual story of that Carmen was pulling illegal experiments. But luckily, Beresford had spotted a cop's gun earlier.
Alex.
Don't do it.
Do it.
Wrong again, Alex.
Bad, but the unexpected happens. Well, Beresford dead, and Carmen having declared his love for Cynthia. Don't know when that happened, but apparently he fell in love with her. And as they're hugging, we get one last jump scare.
It was Beresford. There is no Harris. It's all right.
After we get Carmen assuring Cynthia that they will work together to get her through this. The credits start, and we hear this new band called what are they called? Guns N' Roses, and they're playing a song, "Sweet Child of Mine." Fun fact: the director, Andrew Fleming, this was his first directorial, had originally wanted the band X, they were a punk band out of LA, to have their song "Burning House of Love" playing over the credits, which from a thematic point of view makes sense. But the producers felt that this new band that was just coming out, Guns N' Roses, their song would be a better fit for promotion. And from an artistic point of view, I can understand Fleming's frustration over this. But from a financial one on the part of the producers, they were pretty canny, because very soon after this film came out, Guns N' Roses' video for "Sweet Child of Mine" was released and became a massive hit, and they became one of the biggest bands of the late 80s to early 90s. On their video originally, they were supposed to have clips from the film, but Axl's girlfriend, who the song had been written about, convinced him not to do that. And so we have the video that we have now. Fleming is a pretty good director, although he mostly does TV episodes now. He did also give us that great teen witchcraft movie, The Craft, as well as the remake of the Peter Falk the comedy film The In-Laws, and the comedic Nancy Drew spoof that came out back in 2007. Another interesting side note here. The original ending was to have Carmen shoot Beresford and then take Cynthia to the old house, where she would leave him outside, go inside, meet with Harris, who, along with the rest of the family, the spirits of all of them, would convince her to kill herself, and he hands her a dagger, at which point she stabs Harris with it. He falls over and dies, as do the rest of the family. Feeling she's free of him, she leaves, and she and Carmen drive off, and the last image would have been a skeleton hand coming out of the ground and grabbing the dagger. Personally, I prefer this ending. For me, it makes sense. She would still have these problems. There's no easy cure, but she's going to have someone help her get through them. So she's probably going to experience visions of Harris going forward, but they'll lessen as time goes by. And I find that's a better ending than she frees him by symbolically killing him. And then we get the jump scare of the skeleton hand. But all in all, it's a pretty good film. It is derivative of Nightmare on Elm Street, but the twist of the supernatural being not supernatural, but coming about from chemicals being used to induce these states is a pretty good twist. Kind of reminds me of Mark of the Vampire, which was Todd Browning's remake of London After Midnight, where Bela Lugosi was a vampire leading a group of vampires, and then it turns out in the last third of the film, or quarter of the film, that he's actually an actor pretending to be a vampire to trick a killer into confessing that he actually staged a vampire attack to kill someone to get, anyway, it's a pretty good film. And this is kind of like that, and the reveal that the nice guy was actually the villain all along. But very, very entertaining, very gory. Oh, that blood rain from the air vents was pretty gruesome, as was the bodies falling out. They pulled no punches on the gore in this one. There's no nudity, but plenty of gore. So, as a slasher film, the scale's a little uneven. Because, in the 80s, gotta have that nudity, gotta have that gore. But, it's pretty good. Interesting characters. All the patients are sympathetic and also a little annoying, as they would be, because they've got problems and they're dealing with them. But yeah, Bruce Abbott makes a good hero. And God, I can't remember her name. Jennifer Rubin, excellent damsel in distress, as it were, who actually takes some of her own power back there at the end, and completely different from the punk rock drug addict that she played in Nightmare on Elm Street. So she wasn't doing just a repeat. And of course, Harris Yulin, always excellent. And there was a part of me that was hoping he wasn't going to turn out to be a bad guy, because he was so sympathetic and nice in this, and understanding and patient. And I was just like, yes, he's going to play a good guy. No, he wasn't. But he was an excellent choice, because he can pull those off fairly well. Yeah, this is much better than last week's. Definitely not boring. And for the Gorehound, you should check it out. Please hit like, share, and subscribe. And stay after the credits for my favorite scene.
Let me buy you a cup of coffee.
No, why not?
Why not? You want cream or sugar?